Okay, I am gonna show you guys how I dipped with the foil Brave Enough from Rocky Mountain's collection that just released, because foils can be a little finicky. So the first thing I do is I put it in a cupcake liner so you have more room to dip, or a tray. Sometimes I use a tray, it's a little bit easier. Kind of shift it around and it gets those foils to the top. So I'm going to show you guys exactly how I would dip my nail step by step. So first thing I would do, clear, and I'm going to be using Sparkle & Co liquids. I do a little strip 3/4 of the way up the nail and place it in the clear. So this is how I did my nails in the Manny picture I had shown. Let that dry for a minute. Okay, and then from here I do 2 full dips of color. I only go to about here on a swatch stick. So 2 full dips. And then the first dip, I'm not too worried about picking up a ton of foils because it is the first dip. So normally with a tray, I like to lay my finger flat, kind of shimmy it a little bit. And so immediately press down. They're not all gonna press down, and that's okay. Now I notice, especially with this foil, I'm really careful when I'm kind of patting off excess. I kind of take my little brush and pat off the excess where there's more powder. I don't want to touch the foils because I don't want them to break. And then I take a little bit of base to get those foils down. And so this one, it looks like it's about to fall off. Just take some base, bring it back. The powder kind of sets, at least this one, sets a little fast, so the pieces of foil don't lay down all the way. So that's why we use the base to get those pieces to lay down better. Let me move my legs here, this is a little bit easier. Okay, so once I get those pieces to lay down, I let it dry for a few seconds, and then we're gonna go in for that second dip. So because this is a cupcake liner and it's a swatch stick, I'm gonna do it kind of at an angle so I can lay flat. And this is the one, since it's the second dip, so this would be my second full dip and my last one before I encapsulate and clear. I want to try and pick up foils. So I'm going to look in my little cupcake liner and see where there's more foils. And if you can see, it's staying a lot better now that I gave it a little bit to dry. Alright. And then wipe. Okay, so I see a bunch of foils right here. And I'm going to press. And then try and press flat. Give that a minute. So with these, like I said again, pushing, kind of brushing off just the powder. And then when I go to put the base on this last dip, it's gonna move those foils around, which is okay. I want to break these up, so I'm actually going to move my base around because I want some down here. And it's okay, see, I'm using the base, the brush, to break this big pile of foils up and move it around. And then of course wipe my brush off before putting it back in. Now another thing that I use sometimes is I'll get my little pick wet with base, and then get this swatch wet with base, I'm sorry. I'm like trying to focus on dipping and talk at the same time, and then whew. Okay, so let's say we wanted a bigger piece. Just put it on like that. Lay it flat. Easy peasy. And this isn't anything specific, my husband printed this for me on his printer, just so I can do this. Okay, so now that those have dried, this is just a jar, an extra jar I'm using, and I just put some clear into it so I can dip without contaminating my whole big jar. So these seem pretty dry. So with foils, I encapsulate all my dips, all my nails in clear before filing. And that is especially true with foils, glitters, things like that, so that when you file, you don't file off all those pieces. So you just do this, push down once, and then you have it encapsulated. And you have that nice little apex from that 3/4 of clear strip. And so this, like I said, this is what I did when I did that mani that I had posted with Brave enough. Okay, so we're gonna let that sit. I don't really have to brush anything off. I'm not gonna touch it. Just gonna go ahead and activate. Okay, so again, using Sparkle and Co liquids, I'm gonna go ahead and activate. So after I activated, I let this dry. I'm gonna go ahead and pause the video while it dries. Okay, so now that it's dry, I take my buffer block and go over it just a little to smooth out any lumps and bumps. I mean, it's pretty smooth. I could probably do a gel top coat right on top of this and it'd be fine, but I just go over really lightly with my buffer block to smooth out any bumps. And that's what I'm doing, that one layer of clear over. It allows you to buff out any little lumps without filing off any of that foil. And I know some foils, when they're, I want to say like pastel colors in a really light base, if you don't do a layer of clear as well, those foils could bleed that color. And you can also buff, but I'm not going to because I'm going to be using the gel top coat, which is what I did in that picture. So I don't do the second activator. I just buffed, lightly filed, and I want to leave the surface a little rough because that's what helps keep that gel top coat sticking to your nail so it doesn't just peel off. If it's really smooth, the gel has nothing to like grab onto. But before I do the gel top coat, what I do for my mani, I'll take this glass file and I go around, like, we're gonna pretend this is the cuticle, and I go around the cuticle in a nice rounded motion, and it helps smooth that dip powder out. There we go. You can actually see the difference on the swatch. Okay, so I'm gonna get up close. It's a little rough. Again, take my glass file and it smooths that out. Smooths that out. And that is how I go around the cuticles. And I forgot to do it in the beginning of the swatch stick, but I use my glass cuticle pusher to push back my cuticles before every full dip, because when you push back those cuticles, it gives you room to get as close as you can and clean around your cuticle with a pick. And then once those cuticles relax back to their normal position, you have minimal gapping and it's clean. So I do that before every full dip, and then I go through with my glass file to smooth it and round it even more. Okay, so now that that's all done, I would grab my hard manicure brush, get off any powders, or some ladies will, you know, wash their hands. I just use the manicure brush really, really hard, wipe with rubbing alcohol, which I don't have with me right now, so I'm just gonna go into doing a gel top coat. So do the front first so you don't have a huge hump. So you do the front first and then you do the top so it smooths out any humps from covering the tip. Okay, I'll do this really close. Nice smooth motions. And I already capped the tip. Ooh, this is the spot. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and cure it for the 1 to 2 minutes. And again, I'll pause this video while it does that. And I am back. I'll get this as close as I can. You see how smooth it is? And you see the great distribution of those foils. Easy peasy. And then that gel gives it a nice smooth shine. I like to use gel top coats, especially with glitters, foils, things like that, just because it helps give it that extra little bit of shine, just because it is thicker than just a regular flat color. Well, thank you. I hope this was helpful. Sorry, my weird talking. I am leaning over a counter to do my video, so it's like, oh. Anyway, thank you. Any questions, just put them in the comments.